Florida Atlantic, Connecticut, San Diego State, and Miami going into the Final Four. Well, of course, just as we thought. And I don't know what the odds are to have all four of the Final Four teams. We're looking at some of the numbers here. About 1 in every 600,000 brackets predicted the Final Four correctly in the men's bracket challenge game. NCAA.com, 6 people somehow predicted every Final Four team correctly. Now, I'm looking at our celebrity bracket challenge. Jim Boeheim is in first place.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. By a lot. Then it's Adam Sandler. Marvin is third right now, tied with Peter King. But the person who is leading the bracket challenge for everybody who entered, over 10,000 entered. Seton O'Connor's wife, Erin, she has all 4 Final Four teams. She will join us a little bit later on to give us her philosophy on how she came up with this brilliant, insightful, intelligent approach to picking the Final Four. Yes, Paul.
Seton, I say this with all due respect. You have to be a maniac to have the Final Four correct. Like, what would be... Seton mentioned this a couple days ago. I was like, oh, okay. It's a nutty thing to think anyone who used basketball to pick this.
And she picked Connecticut to win it all. By the way, if Connecticut wins it all in the Celebrity Bracket Challenge, let's see. Marvin can win this. Seton has Connecticut winning as well. But over 10,000 fans entered the bracket challenge. And in first place is Seton's wife, Erin. Yes, Seton.
Yeah, when she filled it out, and I was looking at it, because, my son put one in there. I have one, obviously, and then she did. I was like, babe, this is wild. It's a wild Final Four you got. And I was talking to her about how they're like usually the seeds of all the Final Four adds up to like 6 or 7. Yours is like 29 or something like that, or 27.
23.
23, there you go. Yeah.
Final Four seeds. UConn's 4, San Diego State's 5, Miami is 5, and Florida Atlantic is 9. Adds up to 23. Second highest combined seed total for a Final Four. The only other one that was more, that was 26, was 2011. Connecticut at 3, Kentucky at 4, Butler at 8, VCU at 11. Also the first time since seeding began back in 1979, the Final Four includes no teams seeded 1, 2, or 3.
Woo! Ow! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! This is the stat of the day!
If you look at the starting lineups of the teams in the Elite 8, 19 transfers, 16 seniors, 1 true freshman. And it used to be when a freshman dominated college basketball. Jahlil Okafor for Duke in 2015. Anthony Davis, Kentucky, 2012. Go back to Carmelo Anthony at Syracuse. But after the weekend, Connecticut, Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, and Miami, multiple talented players. But there's no John Wall, there's no Derrick Rose. Your one-star freshman was supposed to be Brandon Miller at Alabama. They were bounced by San Diego State in the Sweet 16. So still a lot of great programs here, but the approach for the one and done, and maybe it's an aberration this year because you have the COVID year, transfers, but it feels like these teams, these schools are older, not relying on the one and done. We'll talk to Jay Billis. He'll join us coming up here in a little bit. Stat of the day brought to you by Panini America, the official trading cards of the Dan Patrick Show. Also, they say good things come to those who wait. Mercedes-Benz SUV family proves otherwise. So it takes no time at all to set up a test drive at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer. Learn more, MBUSA.com. Poll question today, Seton O'Connor.
Well, Dan, we could get into the probably the overwhelming storyline coming out of the weekend was, should the foul have been called at the end of Creighton, San Diego?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I didn't like it, but I didn't like the pass interference call, and the Super Bowl ended that way with the Eagles and the Chiefs. But it's a penalty. It's a foul. Didn't want it to end that way, but it did. And what we didn't really see initially was there's a little push on the hip. And, I thought it was a foul up top, or they called a foul up top, and I realized that there was no foul there. There was a little push from behind, and, they sold it. Creighton is out. What else do you have?
We could talk about, too, this year's Final Four is awesome or awkward?
Well, it can be awesomely awkward. I would just say, is it good or bad, or great or bad? Because I don't know if people, is this a true reflection of college basketball now? Oh, there's parity. Okay. Is it just this year? And this is what I want to talk to Billis about. Is this the future? And then eventually you're going to have players who are going to be coming out of high school going right to the NBA, and maybe older schools will be the norm because the younger talent is going to go right from high school to the NBA eventually again. Yes, Eden.
I think the one thing that really helps this Final Four, too, is that the schools might not be the biggest names, but they're fun to watch. The style of play for a lot of these teams is really fun. They're super athletic. They're up and down the court. It's not just sort of, motion offense.
I've maintained that we love that first weekend. We love the surprises. Oh, didn't know about that team, that player, that school. And then you get to sort of like the Elite Eight, and you're like, okay, let's restore the normalcy. And that hasn't been the case. I mean, I don't know if this is what college basketball is going to be, but you do have older players who have transferred to be able to get another year to play, or I played here at a high level, now I can go there. You got NIL money. I mean, Miami, they got a billionaire booster who spent money. You got a little bit of everything here. Connecticut doesn't have players who are in the top 30 in the nation. They have a lot of players, I think 4 or 5 players who are somewhere between 40 and 60 as far as being ranked when they were coming to Connecticut. And Dan Hurley said, hey, you better get us now. And he said this a couple of years ago because we're coming. And they're here, and they're the best team in the tournament. Yes,
You know what's funny, too, about Dan Hurley? He keeps absolutely crushing other conferences in his thing. He'll be like, well, the Big East is obviously the best, so once we sort of got through that juggernaut, we knew that our non-conference schedule was a cakewalk. He was just like, we haven't faced anybody good. He's just killing other conferences.
I ran into his father a couple of weeks ago. I told the Danettes about this, and legendary high school coach, Bob Hurley. And I said, what's happened with Danny's team? And he goes, well, the non-conference, they were blowing everybody out, and then they got into conference tournament, and then all of a sudden it's like this is the battle every single night, and they realized they weren't as good as they thought they were. Now, this is a couple of weeks ago, but his father, I sat down with him for probably an hour just talking college basketball, but he did talk about Connecticut when they started to where they are now.